7:35 is the time. Good morning, it is Sonia here, and we can all agree that playing sports should be accessible to everyone. But the reality is certain competitions, well, they don't get the backing that's enjoyed by more established events. Take the World Deaf Football Championships, for example. Now, the England Deaf women's football team are due to compete at this competition later this year in Malaysia. To make it there, they needed to raise £50,000. So step forward, Essex resident Simon Harris, who's been helping out. Simon, thank you for coming on. Morning to you.
Hi there, how's it going, Sonia? You all right?
Yeah, really good. So tell us then, how did this first come to your attention, Simon?
Basically, I've got a bit of a reputation for running GoFundMes under various names and jokes and stuff like that, but occasionally I'll get asked to do something a bit more straight up and serious and what have you. And literally somebody saw that the England Deaf Women's football team were trying to raise this £50,000 to get to the World Cup in Malaysia, as you mentioned. And some guy just tagged me in it and just said, Simon, is this something that you can help with? You can probably imagine I get tagged and messaged loads in these things. And obviously I can't help everyone or even a small proportion. But just something about this one kind of appealed to me a lot more, mainly because it seemed like a very achievable target when you think about how much money is sloshing around in football, but also the fact that, going back just 1 year when the Lionesses won the won the European Championships at Wembley, and it just seemed ridiculous that now we're in a situation where another England women's national grassroots, not grassroots team, but if you know what I mean, another England women's national team were literally struggling to possibly make it to a world tournament, and that just didn't seem right given the circumstances of it all.
We'll stay there, Simon. I'll come back to you in just a second, but I'm going to bring in a player from the England squad. This is Claire Stancliffe, who joins me now on BBC Essex. And Claire, good morning to you. Tell us how it feels then to be part of this.
Yeah, morning. It's a huge honour to be part of this, really. Even though I've been involved for such a long time, it still feels really special every time that I'm involved in something like this. So, yeah.
The fundraising side then, how do you feel about that? The fact that this amount of money has to be raised to enable you to do this?
It probably sounds really silly, but I'm used to it. For the majority of my playing career under England and Great Britain, it has been self-funded. I was lucky enough, my first tournament was funded under the FA in 2008, playing for England. But then after that, international politics changed. So it was only Great Britain that was allowed to enter competitions. And then back in 2017, that's when it changed back to home nations again. I'm probably used to it. For most people, that might sound really surprising, but it's just something that I've had to put up with.
What would change that so you don't have to put up with it? Because you shouldn't have to put up with that, should you?
No, of course not. As you said, the amount of money that's in football, it seems a bit crazy. But the FA made a decision not to have the Deaf 11-a-side women's team anymore. That meant that we weren't funded under them. But also, the government do not recognise deaf athletes. So Deaf Olympics GB as a whole is not recognised, which means that we then can't access sources of funding like the Olympians and Paralympians can. So I think if we can get just that recognition for the first step, that will open the floodgates.
Most definitely. How did you get into it in the first place, Claire?
Just by chance, really. Up until the age of 18, I thought I was the only deaf person in the world. And I know that sounds really crazy, but I literally had no other deaf people around me. I grew up in the hearing world. So I did some research about deaf football, just out of curiosity. And I found the England and Great Britain Deaf Women's Football Team. And a friend that a deaf friend, got in contact with me and said, can you come play in just a friendly tournament for me if I decide? And I said, yeah, why not? And the England manager actually ended up watching. And then straight after the tournament, she came up and asked for my details and went from there.
How does that make you feel then, playing football, doing what you're doing? What does it give to you?
Oh, it just gives me this release. I don't think people realise or understand deafness that well. Like for me, it's just exhausting trying to lip read all day, because people have this misconception that just because I have a cochlear implant, I can hear everything, which is not the case. It's like this massive puzzle that I'm trying to piece together constantly, and it's so tiring. But then when you go to football training, you just get this huge sense of relief. And on the pitch, I feel like I'm treated the same, even though I can't hear.
It's like a sense of freedom, I guess, isn't it? Because you're not worrying, as you say, about all of those other things, lip reading and the intensity of doing that all day. It must be quite liberating.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's kind of like you can switch off a little bit, and just do something you enjoy. And I think that's the most important thing.
How much are you looking forward to the championships in September?
I'm so excited. Obviously, with the news that we've crossed the deadline and we're definitely going, it's just completely changed the atmosphere. No, I'm really excited, and I think the rest of the squad are as well, even though the squad's not been selected yet. I think just the whole motivation side of things, and everyone wants to get training now. So, yeah.
How do you fancy your chances as well?
Do you know what? It's really weird, but I've always fancied our chances. We have such good quality players in this country, but I think the funding's always held us back. We've got players that can't afford to go purely because they're having to pay out the pocket to go, and then something that people don't understand is we have to take time off work, so it could be unpaid leave for 2.5 weeks, which at the moment with the cost of living, that is not helpful. But with what we've done so far and what Simon's helped us with, that's going to give us the best opportunity and the best chance to go out there and win.
And, talking about this issue this morning, there'll be families who may have deaf children who, again, maybe want some of those opportunities and chances. And as you've highlighted, may feel that they can't do that because of finances and lots of other challenges around that.
Yeah, I've always believed sports should be free for everyone. It provides so many benefits, and that's not just for deaf children, it's for everyone. And the only issue with deaf people, such as maybe the accessibility, that's not very well known. Like, every deaf person is so different. Everyone has different needs. So there may be someone who's exactly the same level of hearing loss as me. I can speak and sign, but they might not be able to speak, and they rely on sign a lot. So there's a variety and a different range of needs.
And Simon with us as well this morning. As you said, that's been a bit of a game changer, having Simon's support and getting involved. That's been really brilliant for you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if that hadn't have happened, right now I'd be really worried. But it's taken a lot of pressure off my shoulders, and I can't thank him enough for what he's done.
Oh, Claire, all the best with the championships. We must check in again with you later in the year. Thank you so much for joining us, Claire. That's lovely, isn't it? You're welcome, Claire Stancliffe there. Let's bring Simon back in. This is Simon Harris, who set up the GoFundMe page. That makes it all worthwhile listening to that, doesn't it, Simon?
It does. I mean, one thing that I will say is that a lot of the struggles that Claire mentioned just now, in terms of the unpaid leave, the financial side, the one thing that she should take heart from is it basically sounds exactly like the same conversations maybe we were having 5-10 years ago with the women's game in general. And obviously look how far the women's game in general has come on in the last 5-10 years. Even without the Euros success last year, I still believe it would have come along leaps and bounds in terms of how it's funded, how it's treated, how it's perceived. So I think what this is all going to do, regardless of how well they do in the tournament this year, just this general groundswell of interest in the fundraising and stuff like that. And also the fact that it's had Gary Neville, Stephen Gerrard, Gary Lineker all weighing in, either financially or with sharing on Twitter and stuff like that. I think this is the beginning. I think Claire and all the others are going to look back on this maybe in 5 years' time, and maybe they're going to see that this was the changing point, where it went from being something that maybe our government doesn't put too much of an effort into supporting. Maybe this is going to be the start of some kind of groundswell, some kind of attitude change. I sincerely hope so.
Yeah, me too. And I'm really glad that you and Claire have come on the programme to talk about it this morning so that we can give it a bit of attention as well and get the conversation going on it. Simon Harris, thank you for joining us on the show this morning. That's Simon Harris from Essex talking about his involvement there with the fundraising efforts for the World Deaf Football Championships, and also, as you heard, player from the England squad, Claire Stancliffe on BBC Essex. It is breakfast at 7:45.